Silly.
And I'm Aghogho.
Now, whenever you hear the 6 p.m., the 5 p.m. update, you know that from now until 6, we're diving deep into one big issue in Nigeria today. And today we're looking at the xenophobic attacks against Africans in South Africa and the fallout from the attacks, the implication for the Nigerian and South African economies. Now, every day we bring a big hard fact to you. And today's big hard fact is that in 2018, Nigerian exports to South Africa totaled $3.98 billion, while South African exports to Nigeria totaled $514.3 million. That's according to the UN Comtrade. So there's a $4.5 billion of trade between the two countries. That's 1.6 trillion naira. That money is creating value and creating jobs both in Nigeria and in South Africa. So we need to look at how this wave of xenophobia and violence and the reactions to it are affecting both economies. And we have a special guest joining us to make sense of it.
Yeah, so we're being joined by Ezekwesili, who is the Executive Secretary, Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Hello, Mr. Ezekwesili.
Yes, good day.
Good evening. And great. So you're on to 99.3 Nigeria Info, and this discussion we're having is very important because this is one story that has continued to develop over and over. I mean, I was just talking with my colleague here, Sandra, on the big issues. Over the weekend, the governor was at some of the affected malls where you had Nigerians respond to the attacks by South Africans against Nigerians in South Africa, and he said 5,000 jobs have already been lost. You know, first and foremost, let's get your reaction to what's been going on in this very fluid situation between both countries.
Okay, thank you. If you look at it objectively, you will see that the trade volume between Nigeria and South Africa is about 1.3 trillion. And looking at also the export from Nigeria to South Africa is about 46.8 billion. That was in 2017 statistics. And then also the inflow, that's the income, the import from South Africa was about 34.2 billion. That's telling you how significant the bilateral, the trade relationship is between Nigeria and South Africa. But the issue here is that the populace, do they understand the significance of this relationship in terms of the impact on GDP, which is very critical too? One would have expected that leadership of these two countries would have taken it very seriously in terms of engaging their populace and helping them to understand the impact on the economy. But incidentally, the reaction was not prompt as expected. But that is why we have reached the level where we are. One can also say that both sides of the country, that is leadership in terms, are beginning to recognize the impact of things. Which is why it was said recently that the president is planning of going to South Africa. Going to South Africa in August, if it really holds, that will be fine. One would have also expected that Nigerians will have an understanding of the fact that South African businesses in Nigeria are creating significant jobs for Nigerians. If you look at MTN, for instance, you will observe that MTN has not more than 12 South African expatriates. All the other thousands of employees are Nigerians. So you can see that any impact, any reprisal in whatever form, affect Nigerians and put them into the job market. If you also look at the shop front, what happened recently, you will find out that somebody was just discussing this morning and saying that, look, he has a relation who incidentally was spending for the family and extended families because of what happened, has lost his job. Is South Africans affected? Is Nigerians that are suffering? So these are the challenges we are talking about.
Now, is this a suffering that's happening in only Nigeria? How are Nigerian businesses in South Africa coping in the current climate?
In South Africa, for instance, Nigerian businesses are more SMEs. And that's why you see that they talk about shops that are owned by Nigerians, some are operating in plazas as it were, which are also significant in the fact that they also impact on the GDP of South Africa.
Okay.
And providing jobs to some of the South Africans. At least I've visited some of them. I mean, whenever I go to South Africa, if you want something or the other, you just find out that you have to do that. They are also providing employment. But I'm talking about comparatively, the employment position in South Africa and Nigeria are not comparable.
So South African businesses are employing more in Nigeria than Nigerian businesses are in South Africa.
Because in Nigeria we have more well-established businesses that are from South Africa than are in Nigeria.
Are there any figures yet? Do we have any figures yet about how many Nigerian businesses have been directly affected by the attacks?
It's over 50 shops that are affected, and that translates to millions of naira. If I translate to naira, some tell you that it's billions as it were, but it's significant, really significant. And if I now begin to look at the impact on foreign investment, then you begin to also see high impact on the GDP.
You know, one of the recommendations I've heard on both sides, especially the Nigerian side, on moving forward, is compensation being paid to people who have lost monies in the violence that played out in South Africa. I've listened to a number of shop owners saying that even though we put out a plane, they're asking them to return voluntarily if their lives are not secure. What is important is at least they get some of that compensation to restart their businesses, if not all. What is the chamber doing about that?
Well, like I said, what the aftermath of that is going to be an output of what will come on the discussions between the two leadership of the country. For instance, I'm sure you are aware that there's already the South African Council who also spoke with me in the morning and also spoke on Friday, mentioned to me the number of Nigerians who are registering to come back home because of the frustrations they have actually experienced in South Africa. And one will expect, really, there is a compassionate side of human side of leadership.
Right.
Looking at the significant effect and the impact it's making on those Nigerians and other nationals who have jobs and businesses in South Africa. One will expect that South African government to have a way of creating a platform for them, that can help them come back again, as it were. But at present, nothing significant has been said about it. But I still think we are still hoping that in a short while from now, something will be arrived at.
On your website, one of the goals of the NSACC is to, quote, represent members' interests to all relevant government authorities, end of quote. Is the NSACC talking to the South African and Nigerian governments about the need to protect foreign businesses from angry mobs?
Okay, in South Africa, we have South Africa Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, which is our sister partner. In Nigeria, we have Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce. So what we always try to do is that issues of South Africa related, we try to collaborate with them. And that is the reason why, like I told you, we have been talking frequently with them and at the same time, liaising with South Africa, liaising with the ambassadors, Nigerian South Africa, and Nigerian South Africa ambassadors to also see what is happening and all that. And they also have the South African representatives. That we have been trying since, but it may not be significant right now on the results.
What feedback are you getting?
Sorry?
What feedback are you getting?
I just told you that as it is right now, that South African government officials are not very explicit about what decisions or steps taken in terms of compensation for now. But we are looking forward that as the two governments begin to engage, which they have started, something significant will come out of it. That we are very sure.
Mr. Ejimofa, I was having some conversation with some international affairs expert, someone who does work with a lot of investors, and they said one of the big concerns they were getting from South African investors at the beginning of these xenophobic attacks was that the possibility of reprisal attacks. And they had laughed it off, saying that it couldn't happen. This hadn't happened in the past, and it was going to be okay. But we wind the clock and see suddenly that after 2 weeks, that's not exactly the situation. We've had the situation where malls have been attacked, MTN's closed shop, and High Commission shut down temporarily, and all of that happening. What do you say, for example, now that this is going on and looks like it may go on longer than we can imagine? How to deal with the fears of investors about reprisal attacks?
Well, I think actions taken recently indicates that there is a positive steps that are taken by the government. For instance, if you look at what happened at ShopRite, significant number of people have been arrested.
Okay.
And there's a plan to take them to court. And that indicates to everybody all the other people who have future plans of doing that, that the government do not support reprisal attack. And that's why I said that it's important what leadership of a country trickles down to the people, because that will tell them exactly what the government plans is in terms of that. And that was the reason why people are talking about South African leadership, that they should be very emphatic about their position in terms of the xenophobic attack. The president has come out to say something very emphatic about it too, and then one is expecting that officials begin to drive it and see that there's a significant impact on it, and that could be a deterrent to those who have material motives.
I'm glad you've mentioned leaders coming out to talk. Oshomole, the chairman of the ruling party, there's been calls from some members of the ruling party, and its chairman is one of the people who's made those calls, and they're calling for the nationalization of South African companies in Nigeria. What's your opinion on that? Is that a reasonable course of action? Why is it reasonable? Why is it not reasonable?
Well, you see, every decision you take that has a trade related has a way of boomerang. Remember that you also have other nationals investments here, or who are prospective investors here.
Okay.
Because
Mr. Jimofo? Hello? Hello? All right, we're going to try and get Mr. Jimofo back on the line. I'm really curious what he's going to say about nationalizing our assets. I'm guessing he was headed in his direction of scaring off other investors, because on the one hand, you can do this and get your pound of flesh for the average Nigerian who wants the government to do something, But what message are you sending to other investors who are watching the country, who probably want to bring their businesses into Nigeria? Are they going to say, okay, this is a country that I have confidence in? Or are they going to say, if something happens in my country, what could happen to my investment? What could happen to my business? So I'm curious what his answer to that question is going to be. And we are trying at the moment to get him back on the line. On Facebook, Itanola Oladimeji Rafiu says, a lot of things can be affected in any dispute, but definitely not Nigerian lives. Our government should sacrifice whatever benefits from the union of the two countries and save Nigerian lives. That's the first thing. Then other things can follow. But are we willing to lose the jobs? We just heard Mr. Jimofo say to us that South African businesses here employ more than the Nigerian businesses in South Africa do.
Yeah. Exactly, because of the nature of the businesses we have in South Africa. Not just South Africa, most African countries I've seen Nigerian citizens involved in more of the small and medium enterprises, like he pointed out. So one-man business compared to the big enterprises you have there. Those are things we're also going to focus on for the discussion. We also have Ijoma Esek. She's somewhere around Songotedo, where Novare Mall is one of the malls were affected, which where the governor was over the weekend, did suffer a lot of disruption of services, people's shops vandalized, looted. Some of those pictures you've seen, I'm sure, on social media, and also stories of shop owners and people who have their businesses completely ruined following those attacks. She's got first-hand information about what is going on in the aftermath. He was at a ShopRite, I think, also early on in the day, where she saw some of those businesses resume.
I saw pictures of those businesses.
Many
look
of
pretty.
them, honestly, I mean, you know what it takes to get a business to that level, and then to imagine all of that gone like that, and then you now have to start to rebuild. It will take several months to get back. We haven't heard much about compensation yet for any of those guys, about exotic goods and luxury goods many of them did have.
Well, while we try to get Mr. Xenophobic back on the line, let's talk to Ijoma, who's here now. Ijoma, hello.
Hello, good evening, Sandra.
Good evening to you. So you are at Shangotedo right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. So tell us what's happening. First of all, please tell us that calm has returned to that area.
Yes, yes,
Yes, of course. The whole place is now calm. I can
For
tell
sure.
you for that for sure. And let me quickly make mention that I was at the Circle Mall in Jakonde this afternoon, and they are open for business. But some of the people there, the shop owners, they had to open one of the doors, and while the other door is being shut behind them in case of any attack, any form of attack. But right now, I'm in front of the Novari Mall at Shangotedo, and the place is still under lock and keys. And I can see some police vans here. The police has taken over this mall. And according to my findings, I was able to interview some people, despite the fact that it was quite difficult. I was being told that most of the people inside, because I could see some vehicles inside, the vehicles inside are busy packing their items, what they have in their stores, in order for the owner of the mall to renovate the mall. It was that damaged.
99.3 or or YouTube Nigeria Info FM as well, and watch Ijoma as she reports in front of the mall at Novari Mall. That's what it's called. It's quite a big mall. Like, I can't believe I've never been there, but it's quite the big mall, quite the large mall. Ijoma, have you spoken to anyone about these riots? What did they have to say?
Oh, people have still been agitated by what has happened. Yes, of course, I think they weren't foreseeing any kind of violence in this place. The mall was looted by Nigerians. The mall was vandalized. According to the police, over 500 million naira worth of items were stolen from this mall on last week Tuesday. And with all of this, that was 3rd of September. This mall was being looted, and the one in Surulere was also looted. The one in Jakonde, which is a Circle Mall, they tried as much as possible to gain access, but they weren't able to, due to the fact that, yes, of course, they met, it was fire for fire, and it's quite unfortunate that one person was shot dead during the riots. Yes, of course, it all started by one man that was alleged to have carried a placard saying no more xenophobia, that people should say no to xenophobic attack. But it was quite unfortunate that before he could even finish his protest, his one-man protest that led to all of this, before he could finish his one-man protest, hoodlums hijacked the whole thing and decided to start attacking people's vehicles.
I'm trying as much
as possible to gain access into the mall.
That you have the benefit of comparing and contrasting fortunes with the Circle Mall and now with Novari Mall where you are. But you were at the Circle Mall some hours ago. Give us an idea whether business has returned at the Circle Mall, and what's the state of affairs there?
Okay, at the Circle Mall this afternoon, about 2-3 hours ago, I was there. I can guarantee that business activities have kicked off. But in all of this, people are still very agitated. I could only see few shoppers in the mall, and other shops in that same mall. People were nobody. I went around the mall, and it was only few people that I could see coming to ask if they were open for business. I guess during the week, as the week goes by, people would know that yes, the Circle Mall is now open for business. But as at when I was there, we have only few people inside the mall. And the security there was also very tight. We still have an armored tank there and some RRS vehicles within the mall.
Eyewitnesses or participants in the looting, I mean, they can agree to talk to us anonymously, of course. Have you met any of the participants or eyewitnesses?
Okay, according to what I have on me, 125 people were arrested, which out of the 125, 83 persons were arraigned last week, Thursday, the 5th of September. So as I speak, I don't think we would have people that would be willing. In fact, when I was in the Circle Mall, the people I tried speaking to, they were all shy. They all said they don't want to be captured in the whole scenario. And they don't want a situation whereby they will give their own side of the story and they'll come to, hoodlum to come and attack them. That is if we still have some of them still loitering on the streets of on these houses. But people they don't even want to grant interviews in the first place, more or less, giving their own opinions or their names. But the person I was able to speak to, that was after a lot of conviction, told me that it was a one-man protest that caused all of this. Yes.
Able to ascertain that the 100 plus people they have in custody are the people who actually looted that place. I mean, how are we sure that they didn't just pick up random people?
In a case like this, yes, of course, both the innocent and those that were involved will surely go down for it. The governor was at this mall on Saturday, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and during his visit to ascertain and check the level of damage that was caused, he promised that all those involved will be prosecuted. Yes, of course, 125 persons were said to have been arrested, but out of all of this, only 83 was being arraigned. According to, if I want to go by my instinct, I believe those that weren't really involved in this whole thing were allowed to go, while the people that were arraigned, yes, of course, they will know themselves. And the old people that were arrested and arraigned is not only from the Lekki corridor. We also have those in the Surulere Mall too, a part of them. And perhaps part of these people, the police would have evidence because some of these malls were looted. And these items, ignorant people, they would have taken it to their houses. So for them to have arrested 125 and 83 people is being arraigned out of them, that is to say they have one evidence or the other in their possession.
Just join the conversation. We're talking with correspondent Ijoma Esek at Novare Mall at Shongotedo, which is one of the malls affected by the attacks, reprisal attacks following the attacks by Nigerians in South Africa. And we also still have on the line Ike Ejimofo, who is the Executive Secretary of Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who is also with us looking at what is going on. Ijoma, before we joined you, we were talking with Ike about what the governor said, the numbers of people who'd lost their jobs because of what happened with those attacks at Surulere, as well as Songotedo and as well as Jakonde there. 5,000, huge numbers, huh?
Yeah.
According to the governor claimed that the people that will be Nigerians that will be out of job for now is over 5,000. If we want to go by this mathematics, that is to say that if we have family members like married men or women or individuals that are taking care of their families amongst these people working here, it is very obvious that thousands of Nigerians would not have food on their table at the end of the month. Instead of them smiling home smiling home with their salary, it is really quite unfortunate.
Will say, how does the governor know that over 5,000 jobs have been lost? But that will be a conversation that the governor himself will have to answer, or his spokesperson. Ijoma, what do the people have to say about the issue that triggered this in the first place, the xenophobic attacks in South Africa?
The people are quite angry. Those
I spoke to between last week Tuesday, when this whole thing started, and today, they are quite angry. And their anger is, why would Nigerians be attacking themselves? Yes, of course, ShopRite could be is owned by a South African firm. But those working in it, they are Nigerians. Including the shops that are not even owned by the South Africans. The other shops in the mall is owned by Nigerians. I have one of the mall in the Circle Mall where they sell jewelry. The shop was looted. And as at when I went there today, this afternoon, the owner of the shop decided to pack out the remaining of the items in the mall. So going by the number that the governor has given, I don't want to say for sure that we have 5,000 people working in these malls, but I can say that we have more than 1,000, because going by the shops that they have in it, at the Sample Mall we have more than 20 shops there, and at the Novari Mall, if I'm not mistaken, we also have more than 10 shops in it. And if we want to go by maths, if we decide to give them 2 persons per shop or 3 persons per shop, we know that the resultant is quite much. And in a place like a mall like this, we'll definitely have those running on shifts.
And those who are also doing all kinds of other menial jobs.
Yes.
Ijoma,
Yes.
thank you so much for talking to us on the show, Ijoma. We will get in touch with you again if we need more information. Do you have people there who want to talk to us about this, or we're sticking to we're shy? They're too shy.
The people I have around me here, if this is a private estate, the people here are just driving into their estate, and the people on the road are people coming out from the mall whom their management has warned not to grant any interviews. Yes, I can tell you that, because I spoke to some people and they told me that even if I go around all the shopping malls with their name, nobody will grant me any interviews, except for the press release that was in circulation on Friday during the weekend, before the weekend. So those are things, but I don't know.
Would you mind joining us live? Yes.
Yes. Would you mind? This is Nigeria Info. Yes, it is. But now we are live. It's a radio that you can easily watch on television now. Yes, you can go online and check for Nigeria Info. Just come and. Yeah. Hello, Sandra. So now I am able to get someone from inside the mall that is ready to grant us an interview. Good afternoon. Yeah. So please, can you hear from the studio? Can you hear someone from the studio?
Nigeria Info.
You're welcome. Yeah, Sheyi.
Sheyi, hi, Sheyi.
Yeah.
Sheyi, what did you think of the attacks that happened at that mall? The people who came to loot it at Novari Mall.
No, literally, the first intention we had was that it was a xenophobic attack. The look of things, it's actually a bug. Yeah, the bug good place in the theft, and it's from the residents of this around this mall, which was they are part of the how will I put it, the tenants in the mall, and we'll be trying to figure out some things, taking steps, and it's a terrible thing, and it's as well sad for us.
Work in the mall.
Yeah, I work with the company.
What's your company? Was your company robbed?
Yes. Virtually all the companies in the mall, they're robbed.
Are they going to shut down business or?
So try me for now. I hope we're in the cinema there. Genesis. For now, we don't know exactly what to do. hope soon. We hope soon. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this for us on Nigeria Info. Thank you, Sheyi, for talking to us online.
Thank you, Sheyi.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where we wrap up that conversation with Ijoma. You can
Sandra.
don't forget that you can see your radio now, like Ijoma said. It works like a TV, so you can actually watch on Facebook. Nigeria Info 99.3. Quite the story, Aghogho.
Yeah, quite the story. But we'll take a quick break. We come back. The conversations will continue on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Please stay with us.
.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back to Hard Facts.
And we're back on Hard Facts, where we're talking about the fallout from the attacks and the implications for the Nigerian and South African economies. We're talking about the xenophobic attacks against Africans in South Africa. We started the show by sharing our big hard facts with you, where we told you that in 2018, Nigerian exports to South Africa totaled $3.98 billion. Kareem, where's my guest? What's happening? Why isn't my guest on the line yet? Thank you. And we also mentioned that South African exports to Nigeria totaled $514.3 million, according to the UN Comtrade. Now, we've been talking to Mr. Ike Ejimofor, who is the executive secretary from the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce, and he's going to join us on the phone in a few. Don't forget that you can see your radio now, so just get on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3. YouTube is also Nigeria Info FM, and watch us live. Mr. Jimofor, thank you so much for being so patient and joining us again.
Thank you.
All right. So let's go back to the conversation we're having about nationalizing South African companies. What's your opinion? You were sharing that with us before the line cut off the first time. Is that a reasonable course of action? You did say that some things have repercussions down the line.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, investments are driven by corporate organizations. And what encourages investment, most importantly, is stability in the environment. And if you are vested in a country, you expect that you have opportunity to have your investment yielding dividends for you, isn't it? So the challenge here is that if a decision like nationalizing these South African companies are taking,
Mm-hmm.
it is going to have a ripple effect. Ripple effect in the sense that there are other countries whose corporate organizations begin to observe, and you will also begin to think that it can happen to any of them. And that incidentally is going to deter or discourage people from investment and affect our foreign investment. That is why I said that Nigeria also has an agreement, bilateral trade agreement with South Africa. It has not been expired. It's still in existence. And South Africa has not also nationalized any Nigerian businesses in South Africa. For instance, Dangote is a major player in cement in South Africa. And you also know that Owando is also listed in the stock exchange. It's not all the city challenge they're having. I mean, these are all there. Nigeria also has most of the small businesses that also in operation. Apart from what has happened recently, which is very discouraging, because over 20 shops were affected. But I'm just saying that it's important for us to take a step that would not discourage further investment from other countries. Because if you take first step, every organization, every rational investor begin to ask themselves some questions. And that is not going to be for the betterment of the economy of this country.
But Nigeria has nationalized foreign companies before. In the 1970s, what were the results?
What happened, even when they were nationalized, remember that steps were also taken to hand them over. Because you find out that, look, you can't learn that step at an old age. What you did not start, you can't finish.
Okay.
You see organizations that are successful. They are successful because operators are people who knows the nitty-gritty of that business. And if you also look at some organizations that has not survived, it's because the people who are running them do not understand what that business entails. If you also look at the Nigerians who are working in South African companies, they are in thousands. Any step taken is going to most people who are presently employed are going to be in job market. So I think we have had enough. Let's just contain it by encouraging more investors and taking steps to engage with South African officials or leadership and ensuring that this is rectified. Although it's unexpected, but it has happened. But you don't take decisions at the time when there are 10 challenges. If you take that, you always make mistakes.
But we've seen nativist populist sentiment rise up in the EU, especially in the UK, who have voted to leave. We've seen the USA pull out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. These are countries that don't have the same strong ethnic sentiments that we see in Africa, and yet they've become hostile to free trade and free movement. Doesn't this mean that we are bound to see a worse reaction in Africa?
But you also should remember that even when this country had decided to pull off from all these unions and associations, they also want to ensure that there is cordial relationship with them trade-wise. Because no country can be an ally and survive.
Okay.
You still remember that if you take into cognizance your corporate individuals who are also having business relationship with this country, they are very keen. And if you come to Africa, for instance, you know that Nigeria and South Africa are key economic countries in South Africa. And at the same time, one will always say that when Nigeria and South Africa is relating well, it has a ripple effect over Africa.
Yeah, but be that as it may, if these attacks continue, what choice does Nigeria have?
Normally, if this attack continues, definitely, the leadership or the government will not have any other choice but to take drastic steps. That drastic step one cannot say right now until we see what happens tomorrow.
So we have South African businesses in Nigeria shutting down. We have the South African High Commission also shut down temporarily. We have Nigeria's ruling party actively discussing nationalizing South African companies. Do you think we're headed towards a trade war? How close are we to a trade war?
Well, I must say that we're headed towards a trade war for now.
Okay.
I can say that what has happened in a few days now is unprecedented.
Okay.
But it has happened. But I also know that considering the role that Nigeria has played in South Africa, and also considering the role that South Africa and Nigeria are playing in Africa, they will always try to ensure that this is contained, and they will take steps that can resolve it amicably. Even though some people say that it's almost getting out of hand. But I also believe that it is not impossible for this to be reconciled. All it takes is just leadership, being committed, and getting involved in serious engagement with each other. That will be a solution, which I believe is possible.
But say there is a trade war, what effect would it have between Africa's two largest economies?
And that was right. I said because of the role that Nigeria and South Africa plays in Africa, it should be something that shouldn't be encouraged. Steps should be taken in ensuring that these two countries reconcile and then get back to normalcy, which is very key.
Now, Emeka Anyaoku, the former Secretary General to the Commonwealth, recommended that Nigeria and South Africa set up a bilateral commission to resolve these issues and avoid them escalating into diplomatic incidents. Can this work?
Yes, at the time that Joseph Zuma came, there was a decision between him and Buhari, which the chamber plays very vital role, to set up a business council and also ensure that the bilateral relations is also, is also stabilized. But unfortunately, that has not been taken very seriously. We thought by now that would have been sorted out, but it's yet to be, done. So we're still looking forward to ensuring that is sorted out. Yes.
Okay. Well,
because if you have that business council, that will play a significant role in ensuring that all these issues of differences, are taken care of by private sector, like private sector driven, by those who are actually play significant roles in the private sector.
I have to ask this question. Last year, Nigeria's total exports were about $53 billion. Exports to South Africa were 7.5% of that. South Africa's total exports were $83.8 billion, meaning that South Africa exports to Nigeria were just 0.6% of all their exports. So we are a bigger market for them than they are for us. That's for exports. On the import side, 4.7% of South African imports came from Nigeria. Meanwhile, only 1.4% of Nigeria's import came from them. So it looks like while neither the South African market nor the Nigerian market will be starved of imports if there is a trade war, I know I keep going back there, we would have to find new markets for over 7% of our exports. How much does a feeling that we have no economic leverage against South Africa contribute to our responses to these xenophobic attacks?
So, but if you look at it objectively, you also know that significant businesses from South Africa have realized that when you localize businesses, it pays them well. That's why you can talk about MTN and the like, doing very well, because they have localized the operations in Nigeria. And if you localize the operations in Nigeria, those things that should have been imported, those things that should have been imported from South Africa is already done here. So you don't want to look at there. And you also know that South Africa is a significant buyer of Nigerian oil, which has contributed significantly to our GDP. And then Nigeria also, although that's an area that we don't seem to talk about very significantly in the area of human capital.
Okay.
If you go to South Africa, you'll find that you have people who are in the academic field. You have professionals like doctors, you have lawyers, and the rest of them, and they are playing significant roles, in South African institutions. And if you compute that, you can see that Nigeria is also exporting, significantly to South Africa.
Okay.
Although some people don't take that into consideration, but it's significant this year. If a frequent traveler to South Africa, you will meet Nigerians who are playing significant role. They know they can't do without it. That's very, very, very.
So you don't think a trade standoff would hurt Nigeria more than South Africa?
Well, I don't even want to think about that. Really. I don't really want to think about that because we have a responsibility to promote bilateral relations between Nigeria and South Africa.
South Africa.
So anything on the contrary, we shouldn't talk about. We shouldn't promote that. That's what I want to say. We shouldn't promote that.
All right, Mr. Ejimofor, thank you so much for your time on Hard Facts today.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Ike Ejimofor is the executive secretary of the Nigerian South Africa Chamber of Commerce. All right, let's talk to you who's listening to the show. 01277 0993 01277 1993 01277 2993 and 01277 3993. What are your thoughts on what's been unfolding in the past few days? How do you think the Nigerian government is doing in handling this matter? What are your thoughts on people like Thabo Mbeki making comments about these attacks that some people have found quite shocking? Now, if of course you haven't seen the video of Thabo Mbeki making those comments, we have the audio for you right here.
It doesn't affect only Nigerians. But the truth of the matter is that there are Nigerian criminals who are involved in drug dealing. And that's true. And there are Nigerian criminals who are involved in prostitution. And that's true. And you'll find, like in this incident now, in this area of Johannesburg, Rosettenville, where there have been attacks on people, it's been against criminals, not Nigerians. There's no South African who goes around chasing Nigerians because they're Nigerian. It doesn't exist. They will act against this person, whether it's Nigerian or South African, who they say, this one is feeding our children drugs and destroying young lives. Then they report to the police. The police don't act. Then the community takes the law into its hands. That will happen. It's incorrect to read that as being an offensive against Nigerians in South Africa, because it's not true. So I'm saying, when we talk about xenophobia and Afrophobia, we need to be very careful about it. This last thing, this demonstration to the South Africans, this last demonstration in Pretoria, which resulted in some violence. A group of people from one of the townships, Mamelodi, said, we want to march to the Ministry of Home Affairs to put a petition because we are complaining about lack of regulation.
Former President South Africa, Mbeki Thabo. And that comment raising a lot of controversy, a lot of dust online. Femi says these comments on social media are escalating this issue. Femi, why do you think so?
So good afternoon. So I've seen a couple of, some of their politicians and then some of their people in high-level political levels right in South Africa.
Like Thabo Mbeki?
Some of the videos, yeah, Thabo Mbeki and some other people. Now, some of those videos are not recent, but you would understand that from their intonation and the way they are talking, they just think that all Nigerians are bad. And it is not just Nigerians, it is all blacks. my question to those guys, and I still don't get it, is how can 10 Nigerians come to South Africa and you expect 9 of them to be back? But it is not possible. That's number one. Number two, what of all the Nigerians that are doing... I have a friend, a very good friend that is doing his PhD there. I have guys that are working there. I have someone that is a medical doctor there. I have someone that did his flight training school there and got a job there. What of all those people? Who is speaking for them?
Besides, even if they are criminals, I mean, there should be rule of law, shouldn't there?
Exactly.
You shouldn't really be encouraging people to lynch people in the streets.
That this is the same South Africa that a vast majority of the black population are not educated. Now, this is not, I'm not saying this to spite them. It is the fact. Instead of them to educate their own citizens, their politicians are now escalating the mass. In fact, the first statement that even the president brought out, I was like, God, what is this? What are you guys saying? Even if there is a problem, there is a way you manage it. You don't just talk anyhow. Now, that's every single day you will see a lot of Nigerians leave that place and they are going to suffer it. The same thing, Ghanaians sent Nigerians away. Nigerians retaliated. Who won at the end of the day? Nobody. We all lost. So let me allow every other person to come in.
Femi, thanks for sharing your thoughts. We actually have Nigerians who are opting to come home. Do you think that's a good idea? Remy in Aghogho says he thinks there's no need for any further evidence. Evidence to prove what?
To prove that the leaders probably are not remorseful about what is happening. Listening to Tabumbeki, of all people who was in this country, we sheltered him, and him and his colleagues back in the days, for him to come out and say all he said, it is quite disappointing. So we didn't know that no other evidence. Listening to Tabumbeki, Ramaphosa, and the former commissioner of police, blah blah blah. The leaders knew, or should I say, hello?
Yes, go ahead. We're hearing you. Oh, that's quite unfortunate. We've got Benjamin in Ikoyi. Benjamin says our government isn't helping matters. What should our government be doing, Benjamin?
You see, it's not the issue doesn't start today, and I think some of our leaders. I could remember it's not last year or something happened. They killed one of the Nigerians. Abike Dabiri went to South Africa, and the matter died of us in this moment. And even that our leaders have taken a dramatic step, I think all these things would have stopped. Now, for them to label Nigerians that are living there criminals, drug dealers, and all the rest. I have a question. What of their shops they are looting? All those people, are they criminals or drug dealers? What of the woman that lodged at the hotel they killed there? Is she a drug dealer or a criminal? You see, it depends on how they handle the issues. That's why they take Nigerians as a right. Not only Nigerians, Africa, blacks as a right. And I have listened to some people. I listened to one of my friends that living at that area. The worst part of it is that they don't like to take eye and see a black. That's the problem. And they are lazy. And they are thinking that Nigeria will take over all their distance there, whatever they have there. So Nigeria should take, our leaders should take a dramatic step so that it cannot occur again. Before you know it, all this will they will sweep everything under the carpet.
Let's hope not, Benjamin. Thank you for calling. Victoria is our last call. Victoria says that she's worried about these attacks. Hello, Victoria. Welcome.
Yes, I'm very worried. Our children, I'm grandma, I'm retirees. I remember when I was a girl in 1966 when this civil war started.
Okay.
The German people bought a plane immediately and they took all the German people away. Why can't Nigeria improve? Tell this government, let them improve.
Well, we sent a businessman volunteered a plane to bring Nigerians back to Nigeria if they want to leave South Africa. And some Nigerians, I hear that over 600 Nigerians want to come back to Nigeria.
Let them come back. We can still manage ourselves. Me, really, I have friends there. I have my friends' children over there.
Okay.
But me, I don't have any child there. But at the same time, they are all my children. I am very, very worried. I cannot sleep. When I saw the video, I'm so worried about it. As a mother, why can't we rise up? Not to looting their company here, it matters. There's nothing we'll do with that. Let this country immediately feel concerned about human being, about our citizens, our children, our brothers, our sisters over there. It cannot happen with U.S. people, U.S. citizens. They will come immediately and carry their people away. Why can't we improve? Please, I'm still begging this government. Let them improve. Let this government improve. I saw the video, I was crying. They should please, I'm only begging. I have nothing to say than that.
All right, Victoria, thank you for calling to share your thoughts. That's where we wrap up the Big Hard Fact today.
Yeah, that's where we wrap up. And this story definitely will continue to unfold, I assure you. For those of you who are asking questions about Nigerians being asked to come back to the country, if they want to come back, there's a process already on the way with the High Commission. And importantly also, too, why it's been taking some time now is because of their travel documents. I understand it's been worked on. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yes, we're talking these attacks, some more on I Beg to Differ, because Ore and Sankara are rearing to go. So stay here. After the news at 6:15, I Beg to Differ kicks off. Let's talk about who's more to blame for this, the government or the citizens.
Hard Facts will be right back.